Hello, welcome on in. It's Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, the number one tennis betting podcast and YouTube show. With me, Nigel Seeley, and our senior ATP Tour handicapper, it is Sean Calvert. Good afternoon to you, Sean.
Good afternoon. How are you getting on? You still a bit...
It's easing down a little bit. I've got pins and needles. The thing is now, I went to the doctors and I'm on some more pain relief. So I'm on about 16 different tablets. So I don't know whether the tablets are... What it'd be like without the tablets, but it's manageable at the moment with the tablets. But
sounds like Natasha's mom. She has about 400 different tablets a day. I have to go to the pharmacy about 6 times a week to pick her stuff up. Not that I'm complaining.
Hopefully not as bad as Natasha's mum, but hopefully I'm not. I'm 8 at 1. Anyway, the people. Thank you very much for your best wishes. I've got a bad sciatica nerve. I think it's got some nerve damage on my right leg, but it's getting better. It's getting better. And I'm not. I'm a bit way in the clouds, but this is a Friday. We're speaking about tennis.
I'm a bit discombobulated as well. It's all out of whack this week, isn't it?
Yeah, very strange. I mean, if you come onto the show earlier in the week, you would have seen the outright show. Obviously, this tournament started in Montreal. The 1000 event started on Tuesday because of the Olympic Games. It's all been a little bit out of sync all this week, and we're on Friday, and it's quite a difficult day today to look at the matches, but we may be a bit fortunate with the weather.
Yeah.
The weather is all these matches are scheduled to be played today. We haven't got any action tomorrow that we know about. So usually when we do these shows, we look at the matches the day in advance, give you plenty of time to get on with Bet Rivers. But today we don't have that luxury because the Saturday's matches are determined that happens today. So what we've done is we're going to look at the 4 last matches on today in Montreal. But we may be lucky because
I think we will.
Storm Debby is hitting Montreal, isn't it, Sean?
Yeah, Debbie does Montreal, you might say. I mean, I wouldn't say that. But
you've been working on that all morning.
I wouldn't say that, but people probably would. Some people, some older people anyway, older than me, obviously. 100 millimetres of rain expected. That's 4 inches in old money, I suppose. That's quite a lot of rain in one day. I think it's hit already, and it's supposed to go on basically all day. So if that forecast is correct, and if it's wildly wrong, then somebody wants firing, I think. It's going to be just a deluge today. So if that forecast is correct, there's nothing going to be happening at all today in Montreal by the looks of it.
Yeah, so hopefully if you're out there, stay safe. The storm's coming in, but it's good for us for a show perspective because we'll be able to talk to you about the matches. The matches will probably be staying live until Saturday because if they do get any play done in, these will be the latter matches. So there's a good chance these matches will be played on Saturday, even though they are scheduled for today. So it's a good time to look at, first of all, the outright market. Before we look at the outright market, Sean, the conditions are obviously changing. It's been very hot, very quick. We don't really know what's going to happen after this rainstorm comes out, but I can imagine it being very humid and being hot again. But what do you made of the tournament so far? It's a funny tournament, this one, isn't it? It's a weird. I know it's a 1000 event, but it's got a weird feeling.
It's been very weird. Just because it's just been they've shoehorned the Olympics in the middle of it, which is awful, really. I mean, typical Roland Garros stuff. I don't know why Paris couldn't find some hard courts to play on. Or must have it at Roland Garros. Okay, great, but that means the players are all changing services and they've got to change back. Some players have handled it okay. Some players haven't. In previous years, the Olympics, for example, when Nadal won it in 2008 in Beijing, it was on a hard court, and he'd played, I think, 3 hard court tournaments, and I think he'd won 2 or 3 of them before going to the Olympics. Now they've just thrown the Olympics in on clay, made this tournament, which is Montreal, squeeze itself into less than a week, and now it's raining. So I don't know how they're going to finish this, really, because Cincinnati starts on Monday. The final here is scheduled for Sunday. If you're in the final, you've got to get yourself to Cincinnati, and you'll probably play your first match on Tuesday, which isn't great. I know it's the same surface, but the Olympics has really made a bit of a mess of the schedule, unfortunately. And the players are complaining. Did you see Tsitsipas yesterday?
Yeah, I saw him, yeah.
He's
moaning about his dad.
He's not happy, is he? So they're complaining about the balls again. I mean, I must have said this about 20 times this year. The players are constantly moaning about the balls. They're too light, they're too hard, they don't bounce enough, they bounce too much. Tsitsipas says they're dead, which he basically meant he can't get any power behind his shots. He was insinuating that the balls and the fact that he'd changed strings, he'd experimented with some different strings, which clearly didn't work. He was blaming his dad for that, I think. It seemed to be the case that he said to his dad, this doesn't work, and his dad seemed to be saying, well, tough, get on with it. So he blamed his dad for that. It says they're dead. Fritz and Zverev, on the other hand, said the balls are really flying. and it's really hard to control them. I don't see how it can be both. They can't be dead, i.e. they're not going anywhere for one player and flying for others. It's not like they were playing in particularly different conditions, like day or night or whatever. So once again, we've got a difference of opinion. From what I've seen, it looks pretty lively. If you serve well, you get your rewards. I mean, Zverev, will talk about him later, but I think he won 94% of his first serve points, against Jordan Thompson. Zverev's come in there. He was one of the worst ones because he was in Paris. He had the flu or something, a virus, and he couldn't leave the house about 3 or 4 days. Flew to Montreal. He said he had a couple of hits on the hard court. So he should have been the least prepared out of anyone, and he's gone and smoked Jordan Thompson 6-1, 6-1. And Thompson's been playing, for several weeks very, very well on hard court. So there's been some very peculiar results. Some players have taken to these conditions and balls pretty well, even though they've had no preparation. Dimitrov, another one. And some have just struggled, like Felix. The two guys I had, Felix, again, just a complete no-show, and Draper was absolutely shocking. So some players have taken to it, some players haven't. It's been a very strange tournament with quite a lot of slightly unfathomable results.
Yeah, that was the standout performance of the tournament so far. That's Zverev win. A real good performance against Thompson. He's now down to $4 with Bet Rivers to win the 1,000 here in Montreal. Jannik Sinner is still the favourite, minus 125. Zverev, as I said, is $4, second favourite. Rublev is 12, Dimitrov 14, Fritz 14, Holger Rune 14, Casper Ruud is 18. Hercash on his comeback is 20. Then we've got 28-1 Davidovich Fokina, 28-1 Sebastian Korda. Then we've got some real big prizes about some players who are journeymen of the tour. Borges is 30. Big news is Kei Nishikori, 50-1.
Yep.
Won 2 matches, looking good. Beat Tsitsipas, beat him easy.
Well, that was because of his dad and the strings. It wasn't nothing to do with Tsitsipas.
Nothing to do with it.
Whatsoever. Yeah, great to see Kei back. I said on the show the other day, he's one of the best ball strikers we've had in the game over the last sort of 15 years or so. It's just that his body hasn't been built for the tour. The rigors of playing day in, day out, week in, week out. It's really been a struggle for him. He just hasn't had the physicality, unfortunately, to maybe get the rewards that his talent has deserved. But again, some of those matches we were talking about, Nishikori, we had no idea how he was going to shape up. He's barely played in the last couple of years, really. And similarly with Carreno Buster. But if you're looking at these guys on the right-hand side, I mean, we're living in a world here where Davidovich Fokina's 28-1 to win a Masters 1000. It shows you this has been a very peculiar tournament, hasn't it? Somebody on the left-hand side is presumably going to win this. The obvious one is Jannik Sinner. I mean, if you look at his draw now, Medvedev came out of his side of the draw yesterday. Tsitsipas came out of his side of the draw yesterday. So his route to the final is now Tabilo, the winner of Nakashima Rublev, and then one of Davidovich Fokina, Arnaldi, Borges, or Nishikori. So if you're happy to take short prices, I mean, it's difficult to see that Sinner not making the final, really. And the bottom half, it obviously looks, if Zverev carries on playing the way he played in the first round, then it looks like it's going to be a Sinner-Zverev final. Not very original, unfortunately, but that's looks how it's going to be to me.
That's the way the tennis goes. When you see Alcaraz and you see Djokovic not in the tournament, you think, well, there's a chance for someone else to shine. Then it looks like it's going to be number 1 seed and number 2 seed in the final between Sinner and Zverev. But that's all to come. The final is obviously on Sunday, hopefully weather permitting. We could be in for a long delay here, but it's tennis all the way here. Now, what we've done is we've looked at the 4 late matches. So the first match is around about 2:15 p.m. today on Friday. So this podcast will drop early. Head across to the BetRivers website. But as I say, the order of play is scheduled to start at 12. You have Sebastian Korda against Taylor Fritz opening up the proceedings, which will be a great match. Davidovich Fokina and Arnaldi, another interesting match as well there. Where Arnaldi's the outsider in that match. I quite like Arnaldi to beat Davidovich Fokina. But the matches we're going to concentrate on the late ones. So the 4 later ones of the day. But as I say, there's probably going to be no tennis action probably for the whole day. So these could go into Saturday.
It will.
So
if this is right, there's nothing going to be happening today at all.
Yeah. So make sure you follow the website, Bet Rivers. Download the app. Keep your eyes across that. Make sure you know exactly what's happening in terms of the coverage of the tennis, and make sure you don't miss any of the bets. But we think these matches will probably be rain delayed all day today. So let's look at the match we're going to discuss. It's scheduled for 2:45. Brandon Nakashima up against Andrey Rublev. Rublev is the favourite here. Sorry, 2:15 in this match. Minus 190 for the Russian. Plus 150 for Brandon Nakashima. The spread is 2.5. Minus 2.5 Rublev is minus 106, plus 2.5 Brandon Nakashima minus 120. Total here is high 23.5 with under minus 124 and over minus 104. They've met twice before. Barcelona this year on clay. Surprisingly, Nakashima won that match 6-4, 7-6, and a very easy win for Rublev back in San Diego in 2021. Rublev inconsistent, not playing that great, come through against Echeverry. Nakashima had a very good impressive win against Tommy Paul in the last round, and in the early sort of market moves, the money has definitely been for the American here.
I can see why. You know, again, this is typical, isn't it? We backed Nakashima last week, didn't we, in Washington, D.C. Outright, managed to lose to Ben Shelton, who's playing horribly at the moment. And now he's beating Tommy Paul, and he's got a very, very good chance, you know, in my opinion, of beating Andrey Rublev. He played great against Tommy Paul. I watched a lot of that match. Tommy Paul admittedly did have a medical timeout for an ankle problem, but it didn't seem to affect him that much. He certainly wasn't hobbling or anything. I just think it was a bit of wear and tear, maybe. Nakashima won 73% on his second serve in that match against Tommy Paul. Paul won 43%. So Nakashima was 40%. He won 40% more second serve points. So totally dominant from the baseline, Nakashima. I think he's beaten Tommy Paul all 3 times now, hasn't he? So Paul's found that a very difficult matchup, and it was the case again yesterday. If we look at recent form, you know, there's definitely value on Nakashima here. Last 10 matches each at main level, Nakashima 60% win rate, and the service points won and return points won, total of 107. This is all surfaces. Rublev 50% win rate and a total of 103. So I know it's a small snapshot in time, only 10 matches, but I think it's relevant because it shows that Rublev, well, we know he's not in good form anyway, but this just highlights it. A 103 total for Rublev, that's several points down on what he's capable of and what he usually produces. And Rublev doesn't have a great record here either in Canada. That was only his second win when he beat Echeverry yesterday. I think my lean was set one overs there, wasn't it? That came in.
Yeah.
That was only a second win in Canada. He was a breakdown early on against Echeverry. He had to come back and win that set on a tie break. Ended up playing okay, pretty well in the second set, actually. But that was one of those matches where the first set kind of decided it. So Rublev's now gone over 10.5 games in set one 6 times in his last 11 matches. I've said before, he is often a nervy starter. This one, again, looks a tough ask for him. I've just said what the stats are. On the pure stats of recent form, Nakashima's some way ahead. So it's got to be Nakashima for me. The bet here is either just take Nakashima just to win the match, plus 150. To win set one is another option if you don't trust Nakashima to get the job done. Because, as I said, Rublev has been he's struggled a lot in opening sets in recent times. If he is winning them, he's winning them on tie breaks, which then also brings in the set one overs, which I think is plus 163 Bet Rivers over 10.5 games. So several options there. I'm sure I'll choose the wrong one, but Nakashima just to win the match for me. He's playing some great tennis, and Rublev, isn't.
Yeah, we like Nakashima here. He's plus 150 currently with Bet Rivers. Head across to the Bet Rivers app. Remember, if you bet live, you'll be able to watch live as well on the Bet Rivers website and on the app as well. Set one overs 10.5 is a nice price there. Lots of markets available with Bet Rivers. Currently, there are about 30 odd different markets on this match. I think there'll be more added as the day goes on. 37 different markets available on the Bet Rivers website. The match scheduled for 2:40 this afternoon is Jannik Sinner, the tournament favourite, number 1 seed against Alejandro Tabilo. Sean was absolutely spot on with Tabilo against Lorenzo Sonego. Got that job easily, won 6-4, 6-2. Made me look very silly when thinking that Sonego may give him a test, but it wasn't to be. Tabilo won easy, the number 15 seed. Now he's up against the number 1 seed. It's going to be very, very difficult here for him. You've looked at the odds, minus 12.50 for Jannik Sinner. So you put $1,250 to win 100. Alejandro Tabilo is plus 750. He's playing exceptionally well, but he's plus 750. He's got to play one of the games of his life to beat Jannik Sinner. The spread here is 5.5, plus 5.5, and Tabilo is minus 150, very heavy favourite. Sinner giving up the 5.5 is plus 116, and the total is 20.5 with over minus 105, and under the favourite minus 134. Never met before, these two. Sinner looked good against Coric. The first match since he lost to Medvedev at Wimbledon. So he hasn't played a lot of tennis, but he looked good against Coric here, and he is the man to beat this week. Yeah,
as you said, he looked pretty good against Coric. He's also played doubles this week with Jack Draper, which has, I think, certainly helped him get a feel for conditions again after the time off he had with tonsillitis. It didn't help Jack Draper much, did it? There you go. It's helped Sinner. It certainly hasn't helped Draper, but I think it does. In a way, I'm slightly surprised that more top players don't play doubles. It's a great way of getting yourself used to the balls and the conditions at a tournament before you play your singles. I'm slightly surprised that other players don't do it, but I think it's a good idea for Sinner, particularly as he's had that time off. 66% second serve points won against Coric yesterday, just 32% for Coric. I mean, he was comfortably in control of that match. Coric didn't play badly, actually. I think he's returning a little bit to somewhere like his old form. Coric, former Masters winner, of course, on hard courts, but Sinner was just a class above. If you look at these stats, you can see why this is priced as it is. 2024 on this surface, outdoor hard at main level. Sinner, 95% win rate. The only one he's lost was against Alcaraz at Indian Wells, where it's a lot slower. And the service points won and return points won, total of 114. And a service hold and break total of 125. So these are stellar stats. They're very much elite stats. That similar sort of numbers that Federer's produced in his Pomp and Nadal and Djokovic. Tabilo's got very good stats as well. On this surface, 73% win rate this year on hard, and a service points won and return points won total of 104. A service hold and break total of 108. It feels like Tabilo's got a strike early on here. He's playing well enough to be competitive. Sinner's won 11 of his last 13 matches against left-handers. Shelton in Shanghai last year and Huesler at the 22 Paris Masters are the only losses in the last 3 years. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? Sinner should win this. Minus 12.50. It's not. You're not going to get rich on it, are you? Set one over 10.5 is plus 275 for Bet Rivers. Sinner sometimes struggle to adapt to playing left-handers early on. Moutet springs to mind at Roland Garros. I know it was clay, but Moutet's tricky, but he was all at sea playing Moutet initially in that match. As I've said, Shelton's caused him problems when Shelton's playing well. So it might be slightly tricky because it's Sinner's first match against a lefty for a while. He's only played that one match so far, but since Wimbledon. So I think it's not a bet for me, but I think it could be. The first set's got to be. It's key for Tabilo. You feel if he loses this, it's probably going to be straight sets to Sinner. But maybe over 9.5. Over 9.5 is about 1.9, I think, in set one. So that's probably where I'd go. I mean, I wouldn't particularly have a bet on this one, but if you are going to take Sinner on, I think probably the first set is the way to go.
Yeah, currently over 9.5 is minus 120 with Bet Rivers. Over 10.5 is plus 275. And if you want to place a bet on that over 10.5 at plus 275, Bet Rivers have a fantastic special for you and exclusive to listeners of this show and watchers of this show. Show your support of Game Bet Match by making a bet with our promo code this month. Use the promo code Game Bet Match with Bet Rivers in the US. You will get a 50% profit boost on any tennis bet of $2 odds or longer. This offer is good through to August 25th for eligible players. Maximum bet of $25 and max win of $250. If you're a fan of this podcast, please show your support and use this great special. So use the promo code GameBetMatch. That's a great promo code, something you should use if you're going to bet anything that Sean predicts or anything you like at odds of 2-1 or plus 200 or longer. So you get a nice profit boost on that as well by using that promo code Game Bet Match, up to 50% profit boost on anything bigger than 2-1. So a nice special there with the Bet Rivers. I like that one, don't you, Sean?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's not like I don't give out 2-1 shots at all. I suggest them and tip them and give them for leans on a fairly regular basis. So is that just one bet or a parlay or?
You can bet any single market at plus $2 or bigger, and on promo code game bet match. I think you must only be able to use it once, but you can pick that one.
Plenty of options.
25th of plenty of options. Okay, let's move on to the next match. Interesting game indeed. Grigor Dimitrov, a gap against Alexei Popyrin. Dimitrov playing some of his best tennis of his long career, but he's a price always to me that I think myself, I can't bet him at this price. He's a public play. And he's that kind of price again against Alexei Popyrin, minus 345 for Dimitrov, plus 265 for Popyrin. If you look at some of the props, the spread is 3.5. Dimitrov for minus 3.5, minus 107. Popyrin plus 3.5, minus 120. The total here is 22.5, pretty much the same prices over, minus 118, under minus 107. When we look at the head-to-heads, the number 7 seed Dimitrov is 1-1, and they've only ever really met once in a major match. They met twice.
Couple of times, yeah.
One of them was in Melbourne, and it was a long one, and the second one was in the US Open where Popyrin won 7-6, 7-6, but Dimitrov had to retire in the set number 3. But the one thing I've noticed from the head-to-head is there's 5 sets between these two, 5 competitive sets, and 3 of them gone to a tiebreak.
Yeah, I mean, Dimitrov will be very happy with his performance against Hijikata. Again, another one of those strange ones. Dimi not played since injury. I think it was an adductor injury at Wimbledon. Comes back, plays Hijikata, who's been playing on the hard courts, and absolutely smokes him. What was it, 6-love, 6-1? I mean, if you were looking to oppose Dimitrov, there were good reasons to. Guy had not played since Wimbledon, and he's come out and beat Hijikata easy. But I mean, it wasn't great from Hijikata. This should be a much bigger test. Popyrin, I find a very difficult guy to predict. He has so many peaks and troughs in his level. Almost seems to depend what mood he's in. But I'm just not. He's a hard guy to read. He was very poor in Hamburg. He was really poor in Umag when he came back as the defending champion. Just didn't look. I don't know whether he just wasn't interested or just he was in a bit of a funk or whatever it was. But he just looked awful. But then the Olympics seems to have perked him up. He played pretty well in the Olympics, and now he's come here again, switched surfaces, beaten 2 attacking opponents in Mahatch and Ben Shelton, and he's faced only 1 break point in the process, winning 89% of his first serve points. So he's feeling great about his game again all of a sudden. If we look at the head-to-head over the 2 matches, I know one of them was a retirement, but I think Dimitrov only retired in that match when he realised he wasn't going to win, and he had a bit of an injury, a foot injury. He was 7-6, 7-6, 4-love down. He just thought, no, it's not really worth it. But the head-to-head, the stats of the 2 matches, Dimitrov, service points won and return points won total 98, Popyrin 102. So that's immediately got me thinking Dimitrov's a little bit short, or minus 345 on the matchup. And looking into that slightly further, Popyrin has won 58% of his second serve points across those 2 matches compared to 46% for Dimitrov. So it's fairly apparent. I know those figures are slightly boosted by the fact that the third set was a 4-0 retirement, but even so, it suggests that Popyrin has been the better player from the back of the court over the course of those sort of 5.5 competitive sets on outdoor hard. So, and he's coming in here having played a couple of matches of which he's played really, really well. As I said, only faced 1 break point. Dimitrov's had a nothing match really against a very poor Hijikata. So I think given how well Popyrin's serving, given that he is winning a lot of first serve points, big serve, conditions should suit him, the handicap makes sense here for me. Popyrin plus 3.5 games. When I looked earlier, that was a 1.84 chance of Bet Rivers. It's roughly what it is now, isn't it? Minus 119, minus 120, something like that. That's where I'm going to go here. The other option is the set 1 overs, over 10.5 again. Here is plus 160, 2.6 chance of Bet Rivers. I think I'm going to take Popyrin on the handicap plus 3.5. If he carries on serving like that, he's been more than competitive against Dimitrov in these same conditions almost. So, that's where I'm going on this one.
Yep, that could be a potential shock there. Looking for Popyrin angles to get within the overs in the set 1. With the way he's serving, always got dangers on his serve. Lots of tie breaks between these 2 players previously as well. Could be a good angle in, but Popyrin on the handicap. If you want to be brave and take Popyrin on the money line, remember to take that game bet match special. If you do take anything bigger than 2-1, and that would apply for Popyrin if you want to take him here on the value here. The final match, just worth noticing, for what it's worth, that match is scheduled to play at 4 p.m. today, but but as we said all along the show, I doubt very much. I think he'll be keeping to the schedule today, Friday, over in Montreal. The final match is probably the best one of the day from a neutral perspective, not from the betting perspective, though. Alexander Zverev was in sensational form to make his way through to the last 16 up against Holger Rune. We know about Holger Rune's problems. We've spoken about him at length on many of these different shows, but he is a talent and he is a player that if he gets it going, he is a danger. Alexander Zverev here, who's a very heavy favourite here. He's minus 335. Holger Rune is plus 250. The spread is the same as the Popyrin match. 3.5 with Zverev giving up 3.5 minus 108. Rune receiving 3.5 minus 117. And the total here is 22.5 with under minus 110, over minus 115. These two have met two times before. Both on clay, one win apiece. Last time they met was this year's French Open, where Zverev come back from 2-1 down to win 6-2 in the final set in Paris. Rune plus 250. I know he's having a bad run of form, Holger Rune, and I know Zverev is playing exceptionally well, but something about these odds just look a little bit wrong to me, given the talent of the two players. I know if you're on the way that they are in recent weeks and the way Zverev's played this tournament, you would expect him to win, but minus 335, I don't know if I could play at those prices.
No, I mean, I definitely couldn't play at those prices. Not many players I would back at that price, really. Not against a dangerous opponent like Rune. Rune's another one I find very, very difficult to call. His form's so up and down, isn't it? The price is based on the stats. You know, Rune's stats they've been boosted by the couple of wins that he's had against two fatigued veterans so far this week after coming back from a wrist injury that he had in Hamburg. I mean, he played Bautista Agut, who'd already played 3 hours that day. And that one went to 3 sets. Then he played Carreno Busta, who hasn't played for a long, long time, and he was coming back from a very long match as well. So it's very difficult to evaluate Rune's form based on those two matches because I don't think they really mean that much. Zverev came here, as I said earlier, after injury issues. He had a knee injury, didn't he, at Wimbledon? And then he had that knee brace on, the same one Djokovic had on in Hamburg. Ended up losing the final there, a tough loss to our man Arthur Fils. And then he's gone to the Olympics, had a tough campaign there, looked very, very tired against Musetti there. Then he had a virus, didn't leave the house for several days. As I said, he had 2 or 3 practices on hardcourt after he'd arrived in Montreal. That's all. Couple of hits. And then came out and absolutely crushed Jordan Thompson in a great display. Won 94%, as I said, of his first serve points. I know Thompson didn't play great that day. I'd rather Thompson had played the way he did against Zverev, against Draper, but he played brilliant against Draper. Draper was poor, but the first serve is the advantage for Zverev in this matchup. Rune's very hot and cold with his serve. When he's hitting it well, when he's got in the rhythm, it's good, but it can go off all too easily for me. Last 12 months on outdoor hard at main level, the statistics, they kind of bear out the odds. Zverev, service points won and return points won total of 106, and 88% holds a serve on this surface. Rune, 101, which has been boosted up from 99 that it was a couple of days ago, and 83% holds of serve. I mean, the head-to-head, it does give you some sort of hope for Holger Rune here, actually. They've played a couple of times. The first one was in Munich. I think it was in Munich. Was it Munich, wasn't it?
Yes, yep.
Yeah. And Zverev won that. Sorry, Rune won that one, and then Zverev won in 5 sets, as you said, at the French Open. I think we had Rune plus 1.5 sets that day, and he just about did enough. But if we look at the stats of those two matches overall, Zverev's only won 43% of second serve points across both meetings, which isn't great, and that kind of bears out the fact that he's relying a little bit too much on that first serve. Rune's been more than competitive in this matchup, but he ran out of gas at the French Open in the 5th set, which is another one of Rune's problems, that the stamina still isn't there over the longer matches, but he's shown that he can be competitive against Zverev in both of the meetings. So I think the sensible choice here is over 22.5 games, which I believe is a minus 127 chance for Bet Rivers, 1.79 that is in decimal. I think that looks the sensible choice here if you're having a bet on this game. I think it'll be competitive, but Rune is a very difficult guy to call because of the peaks and troughs in his form.
Yeah, the over 22.5 is actually a nice, a bit of a better price for us now. It's minus 115.
Oh, okay.
So over 22.5 does appeal a little bit there for Sean. And remember that match, again, the order play is going to be up in the air today. Obviously, Storm Debby is coming into town, which is going to cause all kinds of problems. But if that does go, that will be 7 p.m. Start time, Eastern time. Make sure you head across to the BetRivers website. I think it's really important today to make sure you look around to see if these matches are going to be live. The chances are there will not be any action on Friday, and these will go into Saturday. And these are all going to be the late games, so I would presume that all these matches will be still live on Saturday. On our social media page, we'll be putting these pictures that Reddit shows out as well. But for your betting purposes, you really need to check across to the BetRivers website to see how the order of play is progressing. And remember to keep downloading the podcast, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, on your preferred podcast provider. On the YouTube show at Betting Weekly Studios, we have an absolutely monster week next week. It's the start of the soccer seasons all around Europe, which means the start of some new shows here on the network. Starting off on Monday, there's a show with myself and Neil Channing. He's a legendary poker player and a sports bettor over in the UK, one of the biggest names in sports betting here. I'm delighted to say every Monday myself and Neil will be doing a show. We'll be looking at the world of betting, giving you strategies. Neil will be telling you some tips, answering your questions, looking at the way of betting, the world of betting here and in states, on stateside as well. So a great show to launch on Monday. From Monday to Friday, every day at 11 o'clock Eastern time, we will have Betting Weekly Live, where two handicappers from the Because We Win team will look through that day's action. So we're previewing the soccer matches on the day. We're looking at some tennis matches. Whatever's going on in the world of sport, we'll have you covered on our live show now, 11 a.m. every day, Monday to Friday, Eastern time. And obviously on Thursdays, we'll have Betting Weekly Extra Time. Steve Wiss, James Eastham and Dan Roebuck will be looking at the best bets across Europe, in Italy, France, Spain, and where's the other country? Where's the other? Germany. And ourselves. I couldn't think of the league we did. And finally, myself, Jack Wright, and Dan Roebuck will be back on Thursday as well. Betting Weekly Premier League, where we're looking at the best bets on the first week of the Premier League, and we're running them shows all the way through till June, as well as 3 times a week tennis, and as well as the countdown to the US Open, which is 2-3 weeks away from them now. So it is going to be chock-a-block with sports content here on the Betting Weekly Studios. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends. Any questions you want to ask, we'll answer them. And also, finally, follow us on our socials, Betting Weekly, at Because We Win, on Instagram and on Twitter as well. Sean, it's going to be crazy the next month.
It is. And we'll be in New York. Me and my highly questionable Airbnb in Woodside, and you, wherever you're staying, some palatial mansion somewhere.
I am staying at a hotel called One Brooklyn Bridge, right on the Brooklyn Bridge, overlooking Lower Manhattan from the rooftop swimming pool.
Very nice. There's nothing like that in my accommodation. If there's a bed and pillows,
I do have a spare room. I have 2 beds in the room. I have a spare room, so you'd have to come over one night and.
We might do a show from there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Definitely can't do it at my place.
Exactly. We'll have to. Yeah. Well, we'll see how the internet connection is. It's funny enough that when you go to some of these, I go to some of these nice places, and I like to go to places. Sean, you're a bit more wild than me. I like to be safe. My wife won't go anywhere. You don't mind going out to a place where you don't feel so safe. I like to be very safe. And when you go to these nice places, some of the internet connections are diabolical. So you never really know. You could be better off where you are. We had to come to your balcony, didn't we? Over in Umag. It wasn't a nice resort. I wasn't saying it was a bad resort, but it was my internet was terrible.
Yeah, my resort was. Well, it was all right actually. That patio was okay, but the internet was brilliant. I was expecting it to be the usual sort of 5 meg intermittent nonsense that you get in these places, but. Yeah, it was incredible. You definitely won't be able to do a show from my Airbnb out, that's for sure. It looks a bit dingy.
Oh dear. We'll have to find out. Anyway, Sean, you got any official picks today, or is it just going to be a few leans because of the time?
I'm going to take a couple of official picks here. Nakashima, I've taken to win the set one to win the match against Rublev plus 150, and I think we have to take the overs. What am I talking about? The handicap on Popyrin plus 3.5 games. To beat Dimitrov, 1.84, that is, with BetRivers.
Yeah, remember these matches are scheduled for today, Friday, but it's an important day for the weather. I think you have to have 2 websites open up all day. One of them, Bet Rivers, and the second one is weather.com, because you're going to need to find out what the conditions are going to be like in Montreal. It doesn't look good,
No, it looks
but
awful.
make sure you check out the two. Oh, yeah, check them out. But we should have this up until Saturday. But if you do want to make sure, get those bets on nice and early. Sean, thanks very much for your time. Have a great weekend. Anything in the weekend? I'm going to see Manchester City against Manchester United tomorrow at Wembley in the Community Shield.
Well, of course, it's QPR West Brom, isn't it, tomorrow?
Yeah. Are you going?
No. I'm not going.
12:30 kickoffs. It's an early kickoff. 12:30.
Is it 12:30?
12:30 kickoff.
I'll got to be honest. What price of QPR to win that? That looks a good bet if they're
Marginal fate. It'll be a draw.
No chance.
No scoring draw. 1-1, 0-0. Low scoring.
We're going to struggle this
Take a
season.
point.
We've lost most of our best players and we haven't replaced them because we're in financial measures. So we are in deep trouble this year. I'd be very surprised if we finish top 10 at best.
Well, and, I think it's a poor championship. Anyway, all the football content is coming next week on those shows. As I mentioned, Sean has got a weekend off. And when will we be back? Will we be back on? We won't be here on Sunday. The draw won't be made on Sunday, will it?
It should be.
We'll be back on Sunday.
It should be.
Okay,
They're playing
so
on Monday, so it should be.
Oh, okay. So back to normal next week. We'll be doing Get Betting Weekly Game Bet Match on Sunday, looking at the big tournament in Cincinnati. That's it for this week. Take care. Good luck with your wagers. Enjoy your day and check out the weather. Storm Debby is coming. Take care.